Hello, 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 wonderful people out there in the universe. I hope that this message is finding you well. I hope that you are off to a great start in your day or wrapping up on a day that was full of accomplishments or achievements, even if that achievement was just prioritizing yourself for today. Even if that achievement looked like you accomplishing one thing out of your 3,000 tasks that you have to complete. And of course, even if that one thing was just looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I really love you and I really respect you. So, today our message is openness to change. This message is strictly about being open to change. I think there's so much going on in our lives on a day-to-day basis, no matter who you are or where you are. And sometimes change can be daunting. Sometimes change could be scary. For some, change might not even seem like it's an option that's available to you. So let this be your reminder that change is always an option, as well as change is inevitable. Sometimes changes happen and we do not anticipate them or want them. Sometimes they're not welcome. Whereas in other situations, we're like, please, I need something new. I need something different. We're begging for it. We're praying for it. We're setting our sights on it. So today our message will cover all of those components of change and what to anticipate, how to prepare, and how to be our best selves through it and after. So change is the great motivator. Change is always happening all the time, all around us. Even if it's not specifically to us or impacting us in a specific way, we can always count on change being present. I believe that when it comes down to change and how we interpret it and experience it, some of the pros are the same as some of the cons. Some of the things that come straight to mind for me would be the discomfort of change, the unpredictability of change, the unknown component of it. Some of those things are cons because we're not prepared. We have no idea what to expect. We are scared of what that might look like, or we are just in a place where we're not ready at all for any change. But on the flip side, those things are pros just as well because sometimes we need change in our lives for those same exact reasons. It's nothing that you can prepare for in the sense of predicting the future or anticipating specific outcomes, but we can prepare in a way. One of those ways of preparing ourselves for change is to expect it. Super obvious, super straightforward. Knowing that change will come regardless of what you're doing or what you intend to do is just part of life. So, putting yourself in positions as well as the mindset to anticipate change is always the best perspective to approach this type of situation in. Change does bring us different outcomes, new perspectives, and take us down new avenues or pathways that we may not have seen before or anticipated for ourselves. So, when I think of my clients that are hesitant to change, just know that change happens to you and it happens because of you. When it comes down to change and how our life is constantly moving about and moving through different milestones and pillars of our lives, some of those things that you can anticipate is that change is happening to you because you're a living being in this world. You need to be able to adapt, grow, evolve, and learn new perspectives and experience new things so that you can be able to relate to not only your deeper and higher version of yourself, but those people that are around you and that you decide that you want to include inside of your life. Some of these changes prepare us to be a bigger version of ourselves that we could have never imagined or anticipated. So sometimes change or things happen in our lives that challenge us in new ways and challenges our strengths. There's a lot of you out there who are gifted at all sorts of things, whether it be physical strengths, spiritual strengths, emotional strengths, psychological strengths, societal strengths, etc. So, with all that in mind, sometimes people could get caught in the comfort of where they're at which keeps them from growing and expanding. One example that comes to mind for me specifically is when I think about people that are great at organization. Sometimes you're just innately good at organizing things. It's just something that comes straight to you. Each time someone walks past your workstation or your bedroom or comes to your home, they're like, wow, this place is put together. This is really good. Or they feel just a sense of overall comfort in your space because of how organized it is. However, when we think about change happening to us, something could happen that will throw everything. It doesn't have to be a bad thing, but will throw things or throw you into a different situation. You might have a kid who is totally unorganized, 1000% sloppy, disorganized, and everything that comes along with it. Those are not bad words, but they are an opposite to who you are naturally. Again, this could be, like I said, a kid of yours, a spouse or a partner, a colleague, anybody that is in your direct facility that could cause the opposite reaction of what you are. That is the change that has happened to you. So, in this moment, this gives you the opportunity to grow in a new way or a different way or build upon some skills that you already have. So, let's just say, for example, the messy person in your life is your spouse. They are your partner, your boyfriend or girlfriend, or your romantic partner of some sort, and you love this person from head to toe, everything about them, but this is your first time living with them, and you're noticing how different their organizational skills are compared to your own. In this type of scenario, you are being challenged to communicate better, to be a good example, as well as to be able to accept things that may not be in your control. When we talk about the communication part of it, maybe you're the type of person, because you're so used to being in your own space, you just do things a specific way. There's no rationale or conversation that happens around it because you're in your own space and you're doing your own thing. But now that you have this additional person in your world and in your life, it causes for you to pause and say, I really prefer for things to be this way because of that reason. Or have you ever considered putting this in this particular place because it's a hazard if it's in this other place? Or even being able to sit down with your partner and make it something fun, like, hey, on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, I'll do this, and on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturday, you do that, and Sunday will be our free day where we do absolutely nothing. So, these type of opportunities allow for you to have and experience something that you may not have needed to practice before or that you may not be good at. Another part of the example of that happens to you that I utilized earlier is be the example. So sometimes, once again, we're caught up in our own ebbs and flows on how we do things. By being an example, because this situation has produced itself in your life, this changing situation, it does allow for you to be a model, be a mentor, be an example. I don't believe that partners should parent each other. I think, in certain situations, it's okay, but I do not believe that anyone should go into a relationship acting as if they are someone's parent. In all relationships, we should be at an even level where there's not necessarily a person above or that is dominating the other, and there's not necessarily a person who is considered quote unquote subordinate to the other. But in this situation, you being an example could mean, once again, tapping into some of those communication skills and saying, I write all my important appointments on this calendar, and I place this calendar on the refrigerator for the whole household to see. That way we can work around each other's schedule, and we can build a schedule that that makes the best sense for everyone that's involved in this household. You being this example may be totally different from what your partner is used to. Maybe your partner grew up in a situation or is used to things just sporadically happening in life. They're busy, busy, busy working and doing things, and then next thing they know, they get a reminder call saying, "Hey, today is Friday, you have a doctor's appointment or a dentist appointment scheduled for 2 p.m. We're just going to call you to check you in. And they're like, oh, shoot, I totally forgot about that appointment. So, you being this example in this person's life could actually show them, hey, you know what? My partner's really good with adding their appointments to the calendar that's on the refrigerator. Maybe I could do that because I visit the refrigerator about 3 to 4 times throughout the day anyway. So that would be a good reminder for me to remember that I have a dentist appointment coming up or a doctor's appointment, or we have that date night thing that we got going on, or we have that theater opportunity that we are going to see, or whatever the case might be. So being that example could, or essentially having this change in your life could present you with an opportunity to be an example for your partner or whoever is involved as a learning experience, as a model of what could be possible, and as just a reference point of what they could do or where they could do something different or better. Last but not least, this scenario of change could present you with the opportunity to release control. Again, sometimes we are so stuck in how we do things when we're just our one individual self in our one individual space that we become almost like set or static to exactly what we do and how we do it. And if it's not like that, then it's not good. And I offer you this opportunity to release that. Just because things don't look the exact same way that you would do them does not mean that it was done poorly or that a person did it a bad way. So with that being said, this opportunity could offer you the chance to release control over what is done and how it is done, or even why it is done, and be able to just be in a moment of acceptance where you are releasing the stress that comes with that thought process, releasing the stigma that might come with that thought process, or even releasing the tension that comes with that thought process. One thing that comes to mind is a conversation that someone was having years ago that I came across on social media. And this young lady was, I'm not for sure exactly how the story went prior to, but somehow she was put in a situation where she was having a conversation with someone. I believe it was a colleague. And somehow they got into a conversation where she realized that this colleague did not go to the nail shop every week or every 2 weeks or every month or whatever it was. And her herself, she typically went to the nail salon every 2 weeks on schedule. She had a specific person that she would sit with. The calendar was booked out for weeks and weeks and weeks in advance because this is something that she did every 2 weeks. And she realized through that conversation that she was doing that because it was something that was told to her when she was a young professional that she has to do this as part of being a professional. But as she has grown in her career, she has realized that innately, or not innately, I'm so sorry, but unconsciously, that this is not a requirement in the workplace, and it's not even a requirement for her to be happy. She realized that she was spending money that she necessarily didn't necessarily want to spend. Like, of course, getting your nails done comes with a cost, but she thought to herself that at the type of salon that she's going to, the type of nail style that she's getting, how often she's getting it, she could be better off saving that money and investing it into stocks or something other that's more beneficial to her later on down the line. In addition to that, she also realized that it didn't make her feel any better specifically. It actually made her feel worse. She begrudgingly went to the nail salon every 2 weeks. She hated having to carve out that part of her schedule where she could be doing several other things for this nail appointment. She also did not like the pain that came along with it, the pricking and prodding of her nails, the pulling of skin, the cutting, all these things she did not actually like herself, but she was stuck in this routine of feeling like she has to do it. So when you release control of these expectations that's been put on you or these presumptions that you've acquired throughout your life and actually try things a different kind of way because change has presented this opportunity to you, it gives you a moment to actually reflect and say, hey, is this something that really belongs to me? Is this something that I actually really care about? Or excites me on a spiritual level, emotional level, psychological level? Or is this something that I was told to do in order to keep up with the Joneses or to keep appearances up? So, when we're presented with opportunities to release control, it gives us a time to reflect on not only other methods or approaches or ways that things can be done, but also to self examine to see if we are comfortable with doing said thing the way that we have been doing it, or if there's an opportunity to change it some kind of way, or eliminate it, or even approach it differently. Just to give you a personal example from my own life and my own experiences, I have approached events in a way where I'm like, hey, if this isn't really beneficial to me, if it costs me more to actually get ready for this event than I will gain from the event, then it's not for me. Whereas previously, I was like, no, I need to attend these events. It's super important for not only my brand, but for networking. It's important for me to know these people, know who's in the room, what happened there, so I can be able to speak towards it and to it and reflect in a way that was beneficial for not only what the company could or what I could perceive the company may need, but also what would be in alignment with any future opportunities. But in life, a change presented itself that derailed that whole situation. When that change happened, it literally stopped me in my tracks. It stopped me in so many different ways that it forced me to sit down and not only miss an event, but also examine if I truly value the event and if the event provided me value that was equal to or more than what I perceive my ultimate goal or my ultimate vision to be. And when I actually sat down and realized that, I came to terms with, you know what? It's okay to miss some of these events. It's okay to not attend everything. It's okay to want to just be at home and be a homebody. And it's okay to explore this as a new way of life or a new way of looking at things. Now, on the flip side, change as it pertains to happening because of you. So, a lot of times we think about change as something that happens to us, but change can also happen because of us as well. Some of the things that come to my mind immediately is like a big brother, big sister program. Other things would be you helping out your neighbor or you helping out the homeless. Other things could be you standing up for other people who may not be able to or capable of standing up for themselves. And because of all these, for example, someone, let's say in the distance, notice you. Maybe your supervisor notices you or overhears a conversation about you showing somebody how to do a specific presentation or how to do a program reset or whatever the case might be. And they're listening and they're overhearing you and realizing how gifted you are or how talented you are or how willing you are to help others. Maybe it's a situation where you all are working the night shift and one particular person in the group needs to leave early to go pick up their child from daycare, but their schedule doesn't allow them because of how they were scheduled. If you're the person that stands up and say, you know what, I don't have kids, I don't have anything to do after work, I was just gonna, bunt around anyway. How about I take your spot? I'll stay extra and you get off early. That way you can go pick up your little one. Your other colleagues will see that you are a good person and that you're a team player. And they might realize, hey, this is the type of person I want in my personal circle. This is the type of person that I want in my life. So, because you have done something based off of who you are in your core, based off who you are in your mindset and how you view the world and what you value in the world, change can happen because of something that you do that might promote you into a better position, that might allow for people to want to pour back into you because they see that you are a good person. So they're like, hey, is there anything I could do for you so that you can get your job done better, or so that you are taken care of, or so that I can support you in a new way? I think when we think about influencers to a certain degree, Depending on what kind of influencer they are, people want to donate to them. People want to buy merch from them. People want to support them in different ways because that influencer has probably provided them with information or a product or a destination of some sort that was super beneficial to that person on an individual level and or for their family or for their friendship, for their relationships, etc. But on the flip side, I do always like to share with people that sometimes being who you are could cause bad attention, and that's where those vampires that we spoke about last session comes into play. So be mindful of who you have around you. You are light. You are what can make the difference in this world. So as you're out there doing great deeds and doing great things in this world, be mindful of the people that are trying to dim your light or take from you just because you're a good person or take from you just because you're a giver. Be mindful of those people. But outside of that, be yourself. Be yourself no matter what. One big thing that I could think of, just as a basic example, so that we can help drive the message home, is say, for instance, you walk by a giant lot every day on your way home. It's a parking lot. It's a parking lot that has a fence around it. No one has touched it for the past 15, 20 years. You grew up around this parking lot. And each time you walk by it, you're like, man, it will be so good for something to be there. It could be a garden, a small shopping place, like a farmer's market of some sort, or maybe a place for crafts or artisan soaps or something. And these things are coming to mind for you. And you might have the ability and or the resources to get that started or to talk to somebody to get it started or to get a grant so they can get started. Because of you and the ideas that you have, here we are 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years later, and that old rusty, dusty parking lot that you used to walk by every day is now a daycare for children. It's now a small convenience store for the people in the neighborhood to grab and go. It's now a resource center of some sort. But this change happened because of you, and something that you're doing is impacting your entire community. So that's just a quick example of change happening because of you. Change brings us new perspectives, which is super important because, once again, when it comes down to some of our preconceived notions and things that we've learned, even though they're part of our foundation, there's always room to grow and there's always room to build upon what we already know. So, when it comes down to perspectives specifically, change brings us growth in our opinions. It brings us growth in our development. It offers us new perspectives, new ideas, and even new memories. When we think of the new ideas, the new practices, the new goals, and even the new purposes that we acquire as life goes on, they usually are a byproduct of a new perspective being introduced to us, whether it's a new idea about people and people groups or approaches to how to accomplish specific things. One idea that comes specifically to mind is money goals. I think that's something that a lot of people talk about. It's all over social media. It's always wrapped up in work conversations. What are good ways to invest? What are good ways to prepare for our futures? And what are good ways to save and secure ourselves in our retirement ages? So, with that in mind, being able to just use this example and flesh it out a little bit more, you might think to yourself, okay, as long as I get a good job, I'll be fine. But then something happens like a recession or a pandemic or a loss of a job or a loss of a company, the company goes out of business or something. That forces you, that type of change forces you to approach this idea differently. Going with the pandemic or a loss of a job, like a layoff or the company closing down. Now that that job is no longer available, even though it was a good paying job, now what are some of the options that's available to you so that you can still save for that ultimate goal of retirement? right off the bat, you might not know. Right off the bat, you might still be freaking out like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just lost this job. What am I going to do? For some, this could be a moment of, and I mentioned this in another video, but processing grief in a different kind of way. Because we're processing grief, but as it pertains to money goals or something that we anticipated financially. You're not going to get that bonus, unfortunately. You've been working your butt off this whole season trying to make sure that you get that bonus. However, the company just went out of business. So there's no option for that bonus. You might feel devastated. You might feel hurt or betrayed. There's all these emotions that could come with something like that. And in the midst of you just trying to figure it out and put the pieces together, you come across an opportunity that allows for you to create security and safety for yourself, whether that be you utilizing a grant program that allows for you to use public or government funding for a niche subject that you might already be skilled at. And you had no idea this was an option to you. One example that I really love is hearing about people who do use government fundings to support them in initiatives that they've already done while they were working for a specific company, but now they are able to get into a project or get into a program that allows for them to be more aligned with what their true goals are versus what the company has designed for them to work on. So finding government or even private sponsorship or funding for things like that. Another example could be utilizing side gigs to help secure yourself until you're able to find a new opportunity that is similar to the previous job that you had that will allow for you to grow. And all sorts of other things could come out of this. But ultimately, what you've learned in this experience through this change is that, hey, maybe banking on my 9 to 5 might not be the best option. Or maybe you notice different things prior to your company closing, like mass layoffs. I would say little things like no more snacks in the break room. Like maybe you had a job where they had all sorts of snacks in the break room where they used to pay for your lunch. They had an on-site cafeteria. All you had to do was just walk to the cafeteria and show your ID badge and you get a plate of food, but suddenly that disappears. Suddenly there's no more pins in the office. It's like, okay, why are they limiting access to certain things? So maybe this change has taught you to notice little things that could lead up to a job closing or a company closing down. All of this does align to what you can watch out for, what you have learned, and what you can prepare for as a result of this change that has happened in your life. Sometimes change allows for us to realize that our initial purpose or goal or what we had in mind for ourselves is not exactly practical or realistic. Sometimes it's because it was an idea that was pressed upon us. Sometimes it's an idea that we gained before we gained life experience, as well as sometimes it's just something that is put upon us as a societal pressure. One example that I could use is, say, for instance, it was always anticipated. I feel like a lot of people fall into this, but it was always anticipated for you to have a family, for you to have kids, get married, etc. However, now you're an adult, you've had some dating experiences, and you realize that you do not like the labor that comes along with being a partner or the labor that comes along with being a parent. Maybe it's something that's daunting. Maybe something created this change that changed you with something like babysitting your nieces or nephews or babysitting at a daycare. And you're like, wow, this takes so much more work and energy and consideration than what I'm willing to give. Other cases, you might have friends or family that have shared with you different experiences that are not pleasant and are not fun. And you're like, yeah, I just rather opt out of that option. Like, you don't have to have kids. A lot of people can make the choice to have children if they want. In certain situations, they're not able to. It just really depends on what the scenario is. but I don't want to exclude anyone from this conversation. But for those that it applies to, you have the ability to have kids and you're realizing that's not something you want to do. They're expensive. Sometimes you can put all this work and energy into them and they still turn out to be tyrants, tyrants and terrible people. So you have decided, because of this change that's happened in your life, say for instance, like I said, you're working at a daycare. Maybe you were on track to become a software developer, but over the summer you got a job at a daycare so that you can make ends meet or so you can pay your bills, and you realize, yeah, I just don't like kids. Kids are terrible, and I don't believe kids are terrible, but you might believe kids are terrible, and that's something that you're not interested in pursuing. That's totally fine. And you realize the only reason that you really even thought about having kids is because it's a societal norm. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to graduate high school. You're supposed to go to college. You're supposed to meet a wonderful partner, get married, have the white picket fence and the 2.5 kids and the golden retriever. But you spending the summer volunteering at your local humane society showed you that you are allergic to dogs. How can you have a golden retriever if you're allergic to dogs? This is a new perspective. This is a new idea that you did not think of beforehand. There's options. Either A, not have a dog, B, get a hyperallergenic dog like a poodle. I personally love golden doodles, but I do understand that they are part golden retriever. So, will those allergies or allergens in their hair or fur still be present? I don't know. That's something you will have to try and test out and do more research on. But for example's sake, your reality might not be in alignment with what you perceive to be reality at one point in time. And it's okay to change. It's okay to realize that that's not something that aligns with who you intend on being in your present moment and as you proceed through life. And last but not least, change in our lives creates new routes and new journeys. I think that's one of the gifts. There's many gifts that come out of change, but that's one of the gifts of change that a lot of people do not take the time to kind of sit back and think about and meditate on. Without change happening in your life, sometimes, like I said earlier, you can get stuck in the minutia of it all. You're constantly go to work, come home, go to work, come home, go to work, come home, go to work, come home. But if your car breaks down on your way to work, then that might create a change in your life that you may not have anticipated. That change may look like the tow person coming to tow your car and them realizing that you have a bobblehead on your dashboard of their favorite cartoon character and them asking, "Hey, what website did you get that from?" And you say to yourself and you say to this individual, "Oh, I make bobbleheads on the side. That's like something that I really am interested in. That's something that, brings me joy on the weekends," or whatever the case might be. And them saying, "Well, I actually own a business and we're looking for more bobbleheads. Are you interested in partnering up with me?" And from there, you can create a relationship that could bring you in $10,000 a month because this person is constantly buying bobbleheads from you for specific niche characters that started off as just a hobby that you learned while you were in seventh grade camp or something like that. And now you can quit that job that you are constantly going to that you might hate and despise. And I'm very much pro hate and despise your job. That's okay. I think a lot of people feel like, "Oh, well, you're not supposed to say that." No, some people do not like their jobs because their jobs are a toxic work environment, and that's okay. It's okay for us to admit that. So this opportunity has presented itself, and now you're making 10 grand a month, and you can quit that terrible job that's draining your life force. And now you can actually have time for like your hobbies or your family or your friends or taking trips or staying home or building that deck or whatever the case is, going bird watching or whatever the hobby is that you've been putting off because you've been so exhausted and tired from your 2 to 3 hour commute to and from work. Another good thing that comes in these new journeys is you being able to reflect on who you were, who you are, and who you want to be, and seeing if things have changed. I think it's very healthy to do like a check-in with yourself and for yourself to see what things are working for you and what things are you ready to separate from. And sometimes you're not able to realize these things until something happens in your life, until a change has presented itself to you. Sometimes we realize that there's things in our lives that we value, but we aren't spending time with. And because of a change that has happened, now we grow closer to that person or closer to that activity or closer to that belief system. And last and but not least is the openness of the journey presents us with a sense of welcoming. I always advise for my clients to welcome change. Be discerning, use your judgment when it comes down to what's happening to you, around you, and for you. But if it is positive and it works in your favor and it works to help you grow and develop and introduces you to new concepts of self, then welcome that. Because sometimes our journey might change. There might be certain situations or people or situations, I can't think of another word for situations right now, but that present themselves in our lives and they're only with us momentarily. I think about friendships in this way sometimes when you kind of hit it off with somebody and you guys are very close friends out of nowhere for like a month or 2 or 3 months, but then that person suddenly fades away. I personally had a friend that was like that. It was a work colleague who out of nowhere we became very close and we were only close for a moment in time, but that moment of time was so monumental to me and what I needed in my life at that time. And it could be the same for you. That could be someone that's like a mentor or someone who is like a mother figure or father figure or a child figure for you that you might need to kind of help you work through some developmental things or work through some concepts and ideas or some scenarios that allows for you to be a better person on the other end of it. So I say that to say sometimes people are with us for a short time, sometimes people are along for us along with us or with us for a long time. And that could be the same with job opportunities, with educational opportunities, and all sorts of things. Mentorship, it falls into a lot of categories. But I always say, like I said earlier, if it's positive and if it feeds who you are and what your bigger purpose in this life is, then op- open yourself up to being welcoming to that so that you can grow and develop. Now we've reached the end of our conversation, and it was such a good one. With these, I do want to try to like get them to be like somewhere around like the 30 to 40 minute range. I don't want to do like a 60 minute or like an hour and a half, just because I do understand that those can be kind of long. When there are times for a good message, though, it will be an hour and a half. I am so sorry, but when a message is coming and a message is good and I feel like it resonates with you all, I do want to not be stingy on the information. So if there is more to add to a conversation, I will always do that for you. As always, I hope that this message finds you well. I hope that this message has fed your spirit in a new and interesting way. I hope that this message has given you new perspective, keyword, vocabulary word on how to approach openness and change when it comes down to our lives and just how things are moving. And I always say, keep your head up. I know that there is a lot going on. We just left graduation season and we have all these new grads that's entering into their adult life or their high school life or their whatever part of your life you're graduating into. And things are new, things are different, and this is a change. This is a big change, and you're like, what do I do next? How do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Pump your brakes. Don't hesitate. You've got this. You'll figure it out. And until next time, I look forward to having you again and talking with you again, and have a great rest of your day.